I'll be talking a little bit about what we've been up to with the Filecoin Launchpad Accelerator, powered by Tachyon. And the centerpiece of my talk is really, working with early stage Web3 companies, the process of going from 0 to 1. Just a real fast intro. I'll talk a little bit about Tachyon for those of you who don't know what Tachyon is. Then we'll jump into kind of more of the meat and potatoes of the presentation, what 0 to 1 looks like for Web3 startups. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about Filecoin Launchpad cohort and the upcoming demo day that we have. So first of all, the Tachyon Team, this program is really built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. I wish Simon and Mossy could be here with me because I feel like I never do their, JD justice. But, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gabriel. I'm the managing director of Tachyon. I'm also a 3-time former founder, 2-time entrepreneur. I was building companies and startups inside of a larger holding company. I've built a number of companies that have gone on to scale up to hundreds of millions of MAUs. So my specialties are really in early stage growth, customer acquisition, business development. And I've personally handled growth and go-to-market strategies, not only for my own startups, but for startups who have gone on to successfully raise and or exit in both the Web 2 and Web 3 space. So I really love working with early stage companies in those really early days and trying to figure out the 0 to 1. My partner Simon in the business also has specialties in early stage growth, product-led growth, financial modeling, growth hacking, worked for BetaWorks and a number of other incubators as well. And then Mossy Prakash, our associate, who previously worked in strategy consulting and founded her own social enterprise. Tachyon, for those of you that don't know, we are part of the Consensus Mesh, the tiered venture business, which is incubated and invested in more than 100 projects and companies, including some of the key pillars in the Ethereum ecosystem. Companies like Infura, MetaMask, Truffle Suite, Pegasus, 3box, and many others. Tachyon is our accelerator for early stage Web3 startups. So since 2017, we've launched a total of 4 cohorts. We have 39 active alumni, some that we are very proud of. As I always say, we love all of our children equally, but some great companies that have come out of our program: Nuo, Idle Finance, Transact, Outlet, PiDAO, and a number of others. Again, this is always hard to do because there's so many great companies in the cohort. So the nature of my talk is I'm going to do a very high level version of going from 0 to 1. I think I have 10 minutes here, 8 minutes at this point. So obviously I can't hit on everything. But here's the basic overview. Building a company, building a startup is an extremely daunting process. There are literally tens of thousands of things that you could be doing at any moment in time, or at least it feels that way. And the thing that startup founders always need to think about is what are the 1 or 2 things that I need to be focusing on right now based on what stage in the business I'm in, and really prioritizing those efforts, almost to the detriment of everything else. There are usually 1 or 2 things depending on your stage that really, really matter. And I want to talk about that today. The first thing is even deciding whether or not you have a startup on your hands or not. For a lot of our companies, they came out of all the many successful ETH Global Hackathon events, have been ETH Hackathon winners, or, some of the other various hackathon, ecosystems out there. And the question that founders often need to ask themselves is this a project, or do I actually have a sustainable, scalable product on my hands? And I think that's a really important question, because as you venture into the startup world, you are essentially saying that for the next 7 years of your life, you are going to spend on this thing. It's very much like marriage, and you need to think of it that way. So there are just some really important questions that you should start thinking about to decide whether or not to make that leap. What market are you playing? What's the size of the market, or the potential size of the market that you could disrupt? Who are your users? How can you go about building a community, especially in Web3? That's important. What are you building? What's the team composition? Do you have the right skill sets on your team? Are there any skill gaps that are missing? Do the founders have context in the market that you're building in? What are some of the major blockers? Your time commitment, your fundraising map? All these are important questions. Once you decide that you are a startup or trying to pursue building a startup in this ecosystem, I think there are 3 key phases. And again, I'd love to go a lot deeper into a lot of this, and maybe we will do during Q&A. But the first stage is really evaluating your problem solution market. Are you selling a vitamin or are you selling an aspirin? Are you solving a real problem for real users in a large and growing market? This is just known as problem solution market. The three key points of that are like, is this a valuable problem, a high value problem? Do you have an elegant or nuanced solution? And is there a market that is big and growing, or the potential to be big and growing? Once you prove problem solution market, then you move into the second stage, which is all about proving demand. That's getting traction. A startup is a machine that finds a valuable problem to solve in a large and growing market. A successful startup is a machine that figures out how to predictably solve that problem for customers at scale and profitably. And this is all about traction. Can you prove demand? Can you convert prospects into users or community members? And it doesn't matter if you're B2C, B2D, B2B, but can you move them into conversion within your conversion funnel? The third stage of any startup is you need to start thinking about your fundraising strategy. And there's some very unique and native Web3 fundraising strategies, but you need to lay out what we call your cap map, your cap table map. And there's a lot of ways that you can think about fundraising in Web3. You can go the traditional Web2 venture capital route. You can do receivables financing, especially if you're generating MRR. You can do debt financing. There are grants. There are all kinds of fundraising mechanisms, especially in Web3 that are native. Each has its advantages and disadvantages. There are trade-offs to each. The key is matching your funding sources to your startup in terms of your next milestone as a company. And again, hopefully, maybe we'll get into some of this during Q&A. The big transitions, I think, for founders is, and some of these are unique to Web3. Transition one is you really need to go from evolving from building for yourself to building for your customers. I use the word customer, user, and community basically interchangeably, especially in the early stages. There are some distinct differences as you start moving through the product maze. But yeah, the first big transition is, we see a lot of, especially technical founders who come out of, whether they be hackathons or they've been tinkering with something, and a lot of their building was built on intuition. It was kind of what they knew to build into the ecosystem. But now all of a sudden it's about your customers or your users, developers, and really listening to them and taking feedback back from the marketplace. The second big transition, the importance of leveraging your community, and really in Web3, building in public. I think a lot of us kind of get stuck in that trap of staying in our lane or doing the thing that we're most comfortable with. But I think one of the really high leverage activities, especially in Web3, is the ability to leverage your community for a number of different reasons and purposes. In fact, that's big transition number 3, is as you start to build your community and build in public and build a following, you're taking feedback from your early users and building in public. Now you start moving into coordinating with your key stakeholder communities, create connections with other communities. Web3, at least in some cases, tends to be insided marketplaces. And there are lots of key stakeholders who are your customers, but are also your investors and also, your community. And so you want to lean into this, as a part of, your build map or your go-to-market strategy. I've been recently really into Jesse Walden from Variant has written a great piece around this, around thinking of community building as the new co-op, and I've been thinking about this term of neo co-ops in Web3. But again, it's all about finding your key stakeholder communities, coordinating all those nodes within your ecosystem, and connecting the pathways. Cool. So here's a real life example of some things that we just talked about. So we have the Tachyon is partnered with Protocol Labs, which has been a phenomenal partner in the ecosystem that I personally have been really excited about for a long time. For our fourth cohort, the Filecoin Launchpad Accelerator, we have a total of 13 teams consisting of 32 founders from 11 countries. They've come together in this virtual ecosystem with us over the last 3 months. And their demo day is coming up in January, which we've been actively building days and nights and weekends, alongside of them. It's been really exciting. Really, accelerators are meant to expedite growth of existing companies that have a minimum viable product. That's really where an accelerator is is kind of a leverage point or a value add. We really help companies think about getting to market faster, increasing the probability of their success. And these are really the 4 tools that a program like Tachyon or any accelerator, if you're thinking about an accelerator, where it really makes sense. First, in this program, we give our startup founders capital. We invest $80,000 in these companies, giving them essentially their initial seed capital to finish that product, refine that product, and really get traction and growth. We give all of our companies access to our global network. Obviously, the team at Protocol Labs has been phenomenal. We also have a very deep and rich network of advisors, investors, technical expertise, product managers, all who have had experience both in building companies, advising companies, in both Web 2 and Web 3. And I think it's really important, being able to leverage a network, having people to help you see around the corner, but also circumvent any gotchas or traps. We give our companies all the tools. So, again, Consensus has built a lot of the Web3 stack. And so, we want to make sure that we give our startups access to the Web3 builder toolkit so that they can just hit the ground running fast. And then finally, the program is put on by experienced entrepreneurs, startup veterans. In terms of how we think about de-risking Web3 startups, Demo Day is coming up. The following are the biggest risks for Web3 companies. Looking at time, I probably need to wrap this up, but really, is this answering the question of, is this the right team, the right founders? Are there any skill gaps? Is there a sustainable moat here? What's the market of these companies? Is it large and growing? How are they thinking about their fundraising? Can the team actually ship product? How are they getting traction in community? So we are excited about all of our children equally. I'd love to talk about who we have in the program a little bit if we have time for Q&A. But to wrap up, I think I'm looking at time here. Our demo day is the week of January 25th. We'd love to see the community come out and support them. You can come say hi to us on Twitter at TachyonXL, or my DMs are open at Gabriel Anderson if you have any questions, if you're a founder or you're interested in demo day, or you can just visit filecoinlaunchpad.co. We quickly spun up a landing page this morning in preparation for today. So if you want to invite to demo day and to see these amazing companies that are hacking and building, we'd love to see you. That's it. Thanks so much.